Now, what I'm going to share in the next few minutes, right, the brands that you have shared with me. So representative probably of the market, like I mentioned, the healthy food market. So what we're going to do is we're going to analyze each competitor's brand, how strong they are. Now, when we talk about market research, right, the reactive side of things, I think is like all the secondary data, you probably can access it through the SingStats. So all these are quite live data when it happens. So you can see the customers showing out the intents and going to the various websites. Okay, and of course the various activities. Now also take a look at their digital activity, which will mean something to you, because if you have about a few months to do the run-up, you can actually create your assets first. That means what they do not have, you can actually create. And people consume content before they consume the products. So these will be some of the things that you can actually take note of. There's only one of your competitor that's doing advertising. So we'll take a look. And of course, from there, I will give some recommendation and then we can have a discussion from there as well. Now, the brands that you have given me was like Daily Card, Organic Grains, and so on. One of them, Keto, is closed. So the reports I already given you, but let's look at the various brands. So this will be exactly the platform that you have, right? When you look at it, I do not know if you have logged in yet. Now, once you log in, right, on your left-hand side, right, they are all the brands that are listed. So you have Grains, Daily Cut, all this. Now, in terms of presence, right, the one that's strongest is Tanuki Raw. So on average per month, they have 21,000 people going to their site, right? So, of course, if you have some insights on how is the sales, or you do some observation on the deliveries or their on-site traffic, then you can actually connect the dots on what does this 21,000 brings to them on the table. So digitally, they have this presence. Now, the one that is having the smallest least present is this particular brand called Bamboo Bowls. So, and of course, you can actually look at why is that so? Is it because they just rely on certain platform, they did not build content, or they did not engage their customers? So this particular report will do the breakdown. Okay. So let me go into the various exact things, like when you look at the reports, what are some of the things you want to look at? Now, Grains is in between. Grains is pretty strong and it's established. So per month, you're looking at, they have about close to 13,000 traffic, right? That is a couple hundred per day. And they are the only one in your healthy food restaurants that are doing advertisement. Now, this speaks of a gap. So if you are going to go in, that means you're actually looking at an advertising space that is only occupied by one singular player. Okay, we are looking at, let's say, if you're buying how to prepare healthy food, maybe poke bowl, for instance. Now, these are all currently not occupied, which means it's more reasonable, and these are the things that you can do. Now, in a few months that you have run up, right, like let's say later when the discussion, for example, with Jeffrey, say we do a ready to eat, and of course you need to do certain form of R&D and so on. Now, it's a very, very good thing to have a website ready, and of course to do the extreme user testing. That means you want to suss out how are people reacting to your food. These are the things that some of the guys are actually doing. If you follow their menu, right, they will launch a new product, and sometimes it will come back, sometimes it will not come back. The reason is because some of you are not popular. So given that you have a couple of months, one of the suggestions later that I'll put out to you is you might want to look at the genre of food that you want to put out there. Now, as I mentioned, all of them have one main drawback. That means that they're quite dependent on their on-site traffic, right? Which is if they do not have the healthy turnover, that'll be empty. So if you're more nimble, say for example, whether is it your cloud kitchen or an OEM site, you can do a variety of things because it's all about assembling. Now, in terms of digital activities, right? So one of the strongest one is again Grains. Now, when we talk about digital activities, we're talking about how many people are talking about them. So in this particular platform, they show you how many backlinks, that means people are actually referring to them. For instance, it could be a website. It could be guys like Save Louis talking about certain type of food, and then they link back to grains. So this talk about their digital activities. Now, this is very important, especially to for yourself that you're starting up. You want to look at and have a foothold in the digital space. These are things that you want to look at. For instance, who are linking to grains right now? Who are talking about healthy food, right? Right? Which blog, which website are talking about healthy food? And of course, from now till when you fully launch, you want to have a chat with them. And of course, you get them, maybe you want to do a guest article or something, and then get a link back to you so that you will have a position there as well. Now, in this chart, it talks about the organic versus their paid, and you can actually see month by month how is the activity. And of course, the peak actually happens like last year, simply because a lot of people are buying online. Now, as I shared during the webinar, right? So that's not going to go away. So that's something you want to capitalize on. Now, why I introduced you initially our conversation that you should skew towards like ready to eat and things like that is because of the delivery fees. Now, when you prepare a food, I mean, you're looking at 30% delivery fees. Where I said everything is packed and you're using things like, say, Janio for ambience temperature delivery, it just costs you like probably a couple of dollars. So the last mile fulfillment is a lot cheaper. Now, logistics is going to go out in cost. So one of the competitive advantage that you can have as you're looking at your competitors is to separate out and make sure that, okay, my delivery is more reasonable than them, and yet people can enjoy the food that I envision that they would like. Okay. So you can see, of course, grains, like I said, they're the only one that advertise, and the activities just slow down somewhere this year. Now, in this portion, as you can look at every of your competitors, it shows you how people landed on their sites. Now, a lot of people search for the brand itself. So in fact, all the brands represented here, more than 80% of the traffic actually comes from branded, which means people are searching for their brands, whether it's Bamboo, Daily Card, Wafuken, or so on. So the traffic that they get is of brand. Now that is something for you to consider as well. When we talk about the strength of the brand, which means they have quite a sizable social presence as well, right? Instagram, TikTok, probably Facebook. But there's another thing which, like I said, they have an advantage because they have a physical outlet. So the brand presence is actually there. So people know their brand and they search, okay, I want to eat, I want to have grain food delivery, for instance. Now, this particular portion, the breakdown for you is to have a look at, in terms of the keywords that's related to industry, how strong are they? Now, the good news, this is actually fantastic news for you. None of them actually make any effort to write article, to talk about health and wellness. They're all focused on their product, okay? Which is good news because you have X number of months and you can actually start talking about them. You can start talking about why your food, why the ingredient. And people like to read the content before they consume the product. And this can draw them to your site, and then slowly you build them out. You can bring them for food tasting. You can bring them to maybe even vested. Ask them what food are they looking at. For instance, just a couple of years ago, we have someone that's doing baby food. One participant. So she actually asked the moms like, what are the pain points? The pain point is when you have a young toddler going to restaurants, you don't have a food for them. And that's why she came out with that particular food. And it was doing very well. In fact, it's still doing very well until now. So these are some ideas you can actually take note of. So when you look at this, the breakdown, that's how you use it. Now, this intent is a very, very important chart. Okay, why? While we do not and cannot track the conversion on each of the website, this roughly tells you when the traffic landed on grains, how many of them are likely to purchase. That means it's transactional and it's commercial. By the intent, that means the keywords which they're searching for. Now, likely when you start, you will have a lot of informational and navigational. People comes to you for info to get to know because you don't have a product yet. But once you have the product, you want a larger portion of your audience landing on your website to be commercial and transactional, as in the case of grains. So it's about 60% that are ready to buy. Okay, they're ready to buy, and your website should be designed in such a way to convert them. I mean, that's a signal which they're giving to you. These are some of the, of course, this is AI. These are the things that they draw back. This is aggregator. Now, these are some of the brands that you actually did not highlight. And the system actually pull out and say that, hey, look here, these are the guys that we think are competitors of Grains. Now, like I said, this is an algorithm. True or not true, again, in the end, you are the domain expert. You have to decide on that, right? And based on this is a competitive map. And like you rightly mentioned, Grains is something that you want to look how to compete effectively, and they are one of the strongest guy. In this area, this is what I meant by branded. Now, Grains, their brand is established similar to Tanuki Raw. So that is how much branded traffic that they attract. Now, in fact, your entire list, right? Most of them search, the way they landed on the website is because they search for, like, for example, Bamboo Bowl, Hakun, and so on. Like I said, it's generally good news, but people tends to look very, I mean, I guess people are following brands for healthy food. Now, this is a food for consideration, which means to say that you probably need to take note of that and somehow build your brand, likely on right now the few platforms are TikTok and Instagram as well. This is their position. Now, this is the only search traffic analysis you will see, because as I mentioned, Grain is the only one that is doing advertisement. So one very interesting thing is, of course, the bento set. They actually, you can actually see how much they pay for it. Again, this breakdown is useful because if you do intend to do advertising, this gives you an idea on how much budget you should spend. Now, this gives you an idea on the occupying a position of the advertisement, which is very, very good position. The reason is, like, as I mentioned, there are absolutely no competitors at all. So if you're positioning health and wellness, the advertising is for your taking. That means nobody is doing anything at all. You don't have to worry about these few guys. Some of them are pretty much not, say, healthy food. Like, for example, you have salad, you have bento, and so on. So you probably need to choose the range of your audience to target. Same. Now, the last part are adverts copy that they show up to tell you what they are writing for. And you can see it's quite a lot about bentos. Just now I mentioned about who are referring to them. So you got Sidley. I think when you break down, there are quite a few others. These are what people are talking about them. Of course, obviously, their website, a lot of people are linking to them. Go and visit grains.com.sg for blah, 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 and so on. Now, I'm just going to do one, just to do the breakdown for you, so that you can actually navigate the rest. As you can see, the daily card, they don't have adverts, the OMO. So when I mentioned that all of them are branded traffic, you can actually see most of them are more than 80%. In fact, the smallest presence one, in like Bamboo Bowls, all that traffic comes from people knowing them. So it has nothing to do with any organic search, all this as well, which is a gap for you. The biggest presence, Tanuki Raw. So again, their growth spiked during the 2021 and generally on their location. Now, when you come to buying keywords, these are some of the things you can actually look at and take note of. So you can get really, really cheap keywords and people will just come to your site. Now, take note here. Again, Tanuki Raw, they have more than 50% that are ready to buy. So you can extrapolate and assume that it's probably a 50% conversion on that as well. I'll leave you to explore the rest. I'll leave you to explore the rest. Now, let's say we do a quick glance. Bamboo Bowls, the presence is the smallest. Tanuki Raw is the biggest. Now, all the brands depends on branded traffic. That means that they're not too in tune to write articles or this. They open their shops and they promote their shops, and of course the traffic comes in. Now, the only one that advertise grains. So most of them has less than that digital activities. That means how many websites, how many blogs are referring to them. They have less than 1,000, which is again an opportunity for you other than grains. Of course, grains, the activities are a lot more. Now, in lieu of all these, right? So my suggestion is, some recommendation is to build your content before your product, which is, of course, I have a YouTube link. You can actually take a look, and I talk about how to strategize your content so that you can actually build a following. And you need to know the intent. A lot of people already know the brand, so you need to build some awareness even before you start, which is actually quite good. So right now that Jeffrey is here, you can actually talk about, say, maybe you want to do R&D, you want to involve some of your users, and that's how they get to know you, and how they can be vested in your products. So there's some advertising gaps, totally empty, except that grains, you can actually go in. And of course, the two things that I mentioned, ready to eat and ease of preparation. Okay, I'm just going to stop here.